Welcome back, Nick Lenz Movie Review, episode 118. Yep, I'm reviewing the movie that started the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Everything started with this film. Iron Man 1, released in 2008, right with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts, Terrence Howard as Rhodey, Jeff Bridges as the main villain, Obadiah Stane. You also have Jan Johnson. Yes, he is a character from the comics, very important character. He's played by a man named Sean too. I'm not really familiar with this guy. Now, in case you're wondering if you have seen this movie, like you're asking yourself, the reporter appears in this movie. Is she a character from the comic books? The answer is yes, she is. She actually came toward the end of Iron Man Volume 3, created by a man named John Jackson Miller. Yes. Her name is Christina Everhart. Yes. And the movie kind of does the similar thing that Batman Begins did, where it kind of has a sequence edited out of order. Yeah, this basically was a very dumb move. No, this came out the same year as Dark Knight. My guess is Favreau must have he's also directed this movie, and he also plays Happy Hogan. Though he doesn't have a big role in this movie. Nope, you just see him mainly just driving Tony's car a couple times. That's really it when it comes to this particular film. Now, prior to this particular film, you see, here's something quite interesting, though, about Iron Man. The stories I've heard, Marvel wanted Tom Cruise to be Iron Man. Yes. And Favreau was like, no, I wanted Robert Downey Jr. And here's kind of the good reason for it. Tom Cruise has got an ego. A humongous one the size of a skyscraper. So, if he was the one who basically was Iron Man, it would have turned out like The Mummy. From what I've heard. Yes. And the thing is, Marvel initially didn't want Robert Downey Jr. to play the character because this man served time in prison. Yes. And here's the thing. Robert Downey Jr. prior to this film had just recovered from dealing with drugs and alcohol. Yes. And he played a character who's an alcoholic. Obviously. So yes. This film is one of the two films that practically saved his career. The other, of course, being Tropic Thunder. The film opens up actually with a sequence that's actually taken from Warren Ellis's Extremis comic book, basically the flashback, where he's in Afghanistan testing out a new item known as Jericho. Yes, to take out terrorists. And this is where we first see Rhodey for the first time in a uniform. Not necessarily like a blue uniform. He's basically, I think he's supposed to be Air Force. Yes. Now, he's a character created by Damage Lee and Bob Layton. I've actually spoken to Bob Layton about this guy, and of course the guy who plays in Iron Man 2, Don Cheadle. He prefers this version of Rhodey better than Don Cheadle. That's his opinion. As Robert Downey Jr., he loves what he's done with the character. Heck, when I'm 3 times at American Comic Con, he actually has taken a picture with Robert Downey Jr. So yeah, he supports Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Support for a long time. Yep. Now, as for basically the flashbacks that basically was taking like bandaged up, yes. Now, from this point forward from the film, this is simply put like straight from like the many depictions of Iron Man, where him and Johansson basically making the first Iron Man suit, the Mark I suit, which unlike in the comics, were at this initial like little thing. You see, in the comics, Iron Man would use his armor for a certain period of time before switching for gold armor. Yep. And here's the thing. What can this armor do aside being big and bulky? Well, it has a flamethrower and a machine gun on it, and it can fly. That's basically it. There's a bit of a repulsor in it. And also, first thing, he's ordered by the leader of the 10 rings, as they're called. Yes, it's a nod to the Mandarin. To build a missile. Initially, he rejects it. They torture him for a while. Yep. And then they eventually like show him outside. Of course, he's on card battery the whole time because it's hard to capture card battery because they got it shut near his heart. So he decided to solve the problem by build this mini arc reactor for his chest. Yes, something he would actually have for this film, and he would not get rid of the damn thing until Iron Man 3. So you would keep it for about, in films, about 5 years. Yep, 5 years he had this piece of metal in his chest for a long period of time. That's what he used to seal it up once he got rid of it. I have no idea. Of course, he has this wonderful flashback sequence of him just like before he goes out to the desert. He accepts the award. Well, he's not there. He's basically a casino gambling in Vegas. And of course, well, like, oh, in case you're wondering, my DVD case has this little thing where, yeah, some DVD cases where actors do this. We had this little locking thing on it. Yes, it's by far really dumb little mechanism for some DVD cases. Not all of them I've encountered basically have been like this. Yeah, some of them would also like how the packaging work, and this I thought was really weird. Like they would have like they would overdo it. Some stores I basically buy DVDs from, where they put like a little plastic tape on the top, on the side, and the bottom. Yes, they would overdo it. Luckily enough, recently in the past couple of years, my guess through a bunch of complaints, they must have stopped doing just basically wrapped in plastic. Yep. But got rid of the stupid stickers. Yep. Now, he meets up with Christina Everhart, talks to her for a little while, basically, like, he asks about he's up with two nicknames. Murray stuff. He's like, not true, he doesn't like the nickname. Marty da Vinci wrote time. He does like that nickname. And then, of course, they talk for a while, and then they go back to his Malibu, let's just say his house, and they have sex. It's a very quick sequence. It lasts maybe a couple minutes. I've seen sex scenes last longer than this. Excuse me. Then, like, this is where we introduce to Pepper Potts for the first time, where Everhart is basically woken up and Tony is in his basement, well, wherever he is. And apparently, she took the time to get her clothes that she wore the night before, get them dry clean. And she's given a car to take her home. Simple as that. Yep. And of course, that later on, like, Everhart herself, after this particular scene, is seen like one more time later on in the movie, and then that's the last to see of her. Yep. Also, when Tony is leaving the casino, he takes Stan Lee in one of his many cameo appearances as Hugh Hefner. Yes, the founder of Playboy magazine. Hugh Hefner, a guy who was an actual Playboy. Though he did take breaks times whenever he was married. Though prior to his death, he was doing this thing where when he got divorced from his, I think it was second or third wife, he did hop into his hot tub with about 3 women. Yes, he had a reputation for doing this. Oh, and they actually have Stanley dressed up as Hugh Hefner wearing one of his famous bathrobe he's over. Yeah, the common picture of Hugh Hefner is basically he comes to work in his pajamas and he basically wears a bathrobe. Yeah, that's this typical like public appearance, the public like image of Hugh Hefner. And as I know about this is because I've seen his there's a biography episode they actually entirely about Hugh Hefner and how he first founded Playo back in the 20s. Yep. Excuse me, just itch my nose. Anyways, so like that's when later on they had the whole mission. They also had this little funny thing where you had the soldier like he hops in his Humvee. He's like, "This is the cool V." So it's like the soldier like, "Sarah," I'm like, "Is it cool if I take a picture of you?" It's like, "Sure." Like, no peace signs. Peace. Yeah, business. And that's when they attack with the Jericho missiles. Yep. After he breaks out, of course, he basically hugs Rhodey. That's the first person he sees. Taken home, and he's in a sling. Now, as far as I know, I don't think his arm was broken, as far as I know, but yeah, he comes back in a sling for some reason. Yeah, this by far is never explained of why he comes back in a sling. Well, probably because the suit he was in, possibly. And then later on, like, right after he gets home, has a little press conference, explains like what happened over there. Somewhat, doesn't explain everything in detail. And then Pepper introduced the first appearance of Phil Coulson, played by Clark Gregg. Yes, in his very first appearance. The guy will also appear in the following Iron Man film, Paul Spear in Thor, and Avengers. After Avengers, he would never return to Captain Marvel. Yeah, he appears in almost all of Phase 1, except for Hulk and Captain America. He missed 2 films. I gotta say, that's not that bad for him. Nope. I will reveal his fate right after when I talk about Avengers. He's seen the film a few times, mostly putting just there. Of course, they introduced S.H.I.E.L.D. as its full name. The Strategic Homeland. So just like Pepper just why just call it just simply S.H.I.E.L.D. And Atlanta will be like, yeah, we're just S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah. Now the thing is with this particular thing of him basically introducing the organization S.H.I.E.L.D. the way they did, it's particularly very odd because in the comics they never did this at all. Heck, even in the S.H.I.E.L.D.'s first appearance, they never had a thing where they just like, oh yeah, I'm part of the Strategic Homeland Strategic Intervention, whatever the full name is. Yeah. My guess is they probably threw it as a joke because of how long the name is and of course the acronym. So then of course, well, like Pepper gives him a card, basically contact later, goes to show up much like in the movie. Then of course he goes off, like takes a little break, goes home and makes him his first. Basically, we have this wonderful sequence. And I think this was great. Favreau had this in the film where he was making his armors. Basically, he made like this armor you see in the film, where he basically has this little circle thing. Yeah. He also has a postal armor, and like he develops pretty much everything in this particular scene. It's like a very good 3D effect. And they also have a little cameo image by Captain America's shield. Yeah, for some reason they built Captain America up until his actual film. They built Captain America about 3 or 4 films. They built up a lot. Like he tested out, goes for a test flight, goes up into space. Yeah, also in case you're wondering, this is also the first appearance of Jarvis. The whole thing of Iron Man having artificial intelligence. Yes, prior to this movie he never had that. But thanks to this film, he has one, the Jarvis one, which is named after Edwin Jarvis, his butler. In case you're wondering, does he show up in the movie? No, Edwin Jarvis doesn't show up in the movie. As a matter of fact, his first film appearance is not until Endgame. Yes, because his first appearance is actually in the TV show Agent Carter. Yeah, that's the first appearance of Edwin Jarvis. Where I think with the intelligence, what Jarvis stands for? Just a very intelligent system. Yeah, that's what Jarvis stands for. It's an acronym. He's voiced, of course, by Paul Bentley, who plays this particular AI up until Age of Ultron, where he gets replaced with Friday for the rest appearances that he makes. Yeah, of course, he has a little freezing thing. Of course, he fixed that later. And then Obadiah basically doesn't like the fact he's getting shut off from Tony's experiments. So he goes to the arc reactor, the scientist. The scientist appears in this movie, like he argues with for this brief scene. He actually, after this particular movie, would not return again until Spider-Man Far From Home, which was released just this year. So, you have the character with the longest gap between films. 11 movies. Why the heck did the director of Spider-Man Far From Home basically said, wait, did that film bring it back? I have no idea. So, basically, Obadiah is revealed to be working with the Ten Rings. Like, apparently he's the one giving them weapons because apparently Tony basically spotted that some of his weapons basically are there. He was investigating the whole film, like, how the heck did he get hands weapons? It turns out that Obadiah sold them to them. Yes, Obadiah was selling weapons to terrorists. Yep. Like, in the case of this particular revelation, Obadiah being the one responsible for this kind of makes sense. I love the whole thing of basically, like, there's a joke about New York and the fact they had the board meeting in New York, like, prior to the whole revelation. And he brings home pizza! Yes, brings in freaking pizza. And, of course, they had a couple of slices, but, like, nah, I'm not going with you, so I'm going to take the box pizza with me. I think that's so funny. Yep. So later in the movie, basically, it's revealed, like, at a party, you have this wonderful scene, which is on the back cover of Tony dance with Pepper with a backless dress. He's like, "Nice dress. Who gave it to you?" "You did." Yeah, a dress with no back. Yes, you gotta appreciate the fact Favreau was set up these two to be a couple, because here's the thing: in the comics, these two have made out a few times, and they've gone on like one date together. But here's the strange thing: these two have never been a couple at all. Yeah, this is simply an invention for the movies of of Tony and Pepper being a couple. Yes, this is an invention from the movies. They actually sort of pulled this into the comic books, but very little. Yep. Then of course, well, after the brief dance, they get a breather and of course get a drink, and of course, Tony gets confronted by Christy Evergard in her second and last appearance film with pictures of basically stuff going on in the Middle East. Goes home, he gets up, so he just basically takes his way, smash a bunch of windows. Excuse me, of course, and then of course, then he suits up. Of course, he's angry, so he suits up and goes beat the crap out of these terrorists. And he also saves a bunch of people, and he blows up like 3 tanks. This actually from the trailer this movie. Yeah. And then like he's caught and he's caught by them, and then basically he's caught on military radar. Like, what the heck was that? And of course, he does save a couple pilots from being crashed. And of course, I thought it was just so funny the fact the first person to find out the fact that Tony's under the helmet is Rhodey, which makes perfect sense because he's his best friend. Yep. So, yeah, of course they have this little funny scene a little later where Tony is basically talking about a embarrassing story of Rhodey and a girl. Well, a girl trying to be a guy. Which I thought was so hilarious, the fact he brought that up. Yep. And here's the thing about that. I thought this was so funny. And so, like, a cool Easter egg. Rhodey's ringtone, whenever Tony calls him, is the Iron Man theme song from the 60s show. Yeah. And no, it's not the one from the 80s one. It's actually from the original 60s cartoon. I'm like, that's his ringtone. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would love to have that as a ringtone. That was so funny. Yep. And, well, despite the fact he did hit the pilots and the whole thing, kept this whole secret. So basically, yeah, it was basically just a accidental test flight. An accident just happened overseas. The aircraft was destroyed, but the pilot did survive. Yeah, which I thought was so funny. And then he gets home, gets out of the armor, and that's when Pepper discovers that he's Iron Man. Yep. Of course, later on in the movie, that Obadiah reveals that he knows that he's Iron Man. So also we have it where Tony gives Pepper, like, the previous, like, he asks her basically, because at one point he asks, like, how big are her hands? Like, are they really big or small? So, basically, it takes the first arc reactor that was in his chest, removes it, and replaces it with a different one, because it's kind of old. Like, they can throw it, destroy it, whatever. She makes like a display thing for him later. And pulls out, like, the wrong thing, nearly kills him, but, yeah, puts a replacement, no problem, and he works perfectly fine. Yeah, even she points, this is kind of gross, especially pulling her hand inside her boss's chest. Yep. Oh, yeah, and also that the board directors, like, it was real Tony, the board directors filed instructions. It turns out it was not actually them. It was actually Obadiah who locked him out. Mainly because he refused to give away the tech he discovered. Which is actually partially true from the comic books. Yes, this whole plot line of Tony keeping his tech to himself. Yeah, this is true from the original '60s comic books. Yeah, he was nominated for doing this. Yeah, and the senator who actually would call him to testify against the Senate hearings in the next film, yeah, he's from the comics as well. No, he's not Hydra agent. So yeah, Obadiah basically just gets his hands on the Mark One armor, which had been banned in the desert. Yeah, apparently we just left there, and then he just got it, killed the leader, and apparently killed the rest of the Ten Rings. Though by the Iron Man 3 prelude, it's like they're apparently alive again somehow. It's never really explained. So basically, he builds himself his own armor, and it's freaking huge. Like, in case you're wondering, now he becomes the Ironmonger later on in the movie. Is this armor like this big in the comics? Yes. Is it silver? No, it's actually blue. As for why the heck they made it silver for, I don't have any idea. But at least the fact you can say, yeah, this is the Ironmonger armor because it's freaking huge. And it's interesting that they started out with Ironmonger as his first villain. I bet some people are hoping for the Mandarin. Nope, Ironmonger, which does make sense because the thing is, aside from the Mandarin, not a lot of people know who the heck Obadiah Stane is. So, turns out so he's basically Tony. Everybody finds out, yeah, he's evil. So Pepper basically sort of sneaks into Obadiah's office, makes a download of his hard drive without him knowing about it. Until basically he discovers it like right after she leaves that she apparently had downloaded his old database, sees that Phil Coulson's basically life, says like you want, or I mean yeah, we're having right now. So they walk straight to the arc reactor plant, see the Iron Man Mark 1 armor. Which, by the way, in case you're wondering, does this armor show up in the sequel films? The answer is no. It actually does not show up at all. It, for some reason, never makes appearance after this. That's when the Ironmonger shows up, kills and he uses it to kill most of the SHIELD agents that Phil Coulson brought with him, except Phil Coulson himself, who does protect Pepper. And Pepper is briefly taken hostage by, well, Ironmonger, though. Tony fights in the street, takes a couple of buses. Of course, Obadiah doesn't care. They find the rooftop with the arc reactors. Eventually, Pepper overloads to kill Obadiah. Yep. And then they try to do a cover story like right after Obadiah is killed. And then basically Tony outcomes Iron Man and says, I am Iron Man. Which is a line that he would say in Iron Man 2 and Avengers Endgame. He did not say it in Iron Man 3 or any other movie. Just said it in 2 other films aside from this one. After that, we have the credits, and then we had the first ever post-credit scene. Like, Iron Man just goes back to his house, about on the couch, and they look like, who are you? It's like, and it's Nick Fury, played by Samuel Jackson. He's like, you think you're the only hero in the world? I'd like to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. Yep. First post-credit scene, and it's with... Now, this scene apparently was shot in secret. Nobody knew about this at all. I didn't initially know about this post-credits scene until somebody told me about it because I thought the movie ended with the credits. I don't know anything about this post-credits scene at all, which I thought was quite interesting. The fact he did this. Yep. So with this film, we get the first appearances of Iron Man, Pepper Potts, Rhodey, Obadiah Stane, Happy Hogan, and Nick Fury, and eventually also S.H.I.E.L.D., which, great that we actually have a good starting point here. This film is great. Obadiah Stane is a great villain, in my opinion, a very underrated villain, because people think that the best villain, the only good villain that Marvel came out with for their movies is Loki. I highly disagree. Obadiah Stane is a really good villain. He's interesting. When he will be a villain, yeah, it slowly is built up the whole film that he might be the one behind all the terrorist stuff. But yeah, great film overall. I give this film roughly a 9 out of 10. Very good film. Okay? So yeah, that's it for this particular review. My next review of the newest chapter of One Punch Man. Okay? But see you next review. Bye.